Hello and thank you for watching my video. Today we are going to remove the rear wheel of a BMW GS 1200. This is the 2016 model, so the bolts will be on the right hand side of the wheel. So the first thing we'll do is remove the five Torx bolts which hold the rear wheel onto the swing arm. And what I've done is I've gone around and I loosened one, and then I went to the one across from it, I loosened it, and then went to the one across from it and loosened it, and I used that pattern until all five were loose. And once they're all loose, then go around, and it doesn't matter which way, but just take all five of them out and lay them on the ground next to the bike. So I know as you're watching this video, you're sitting there looking at a floor jack holding the bike up in the air. Well, when this bike came in, there was about 200 pounds of gear sitting on the pylon seat, and there was a big top case on the back. This is a buddy of mine's bike, and he's about to do a trip up the eastern U.S. from I think they went from Bryson City all the way up to Maine on their BMWs, and so he just wanted new tires before he left, and so we're going to put some new knobbies on this thing. But anyway, there was so much gear on the back of the bike that I needed the stand to hold the rear end off the ground. There's no problem getting the front end off the ground while on the center stand. There's that much gear on the back of the bike. So anyway, once you get all the bolts removed off the rear wheel, you're going to need to remove that rain guard, the mud flap that's on the back of the bike. You can either do this before you start working on the rear wheel or remove the bolts on the rear wheel. The rear wheel will stay on the hub, so you can take this off, as you see clearly. But these three little screws that hold the splash guard onto the back of the bike, just remove these three screws and then take the splash guard and lay it down next to the bike. And again, once you have the three screws out, just lay the splash guard next to the bike, and then your rear wheel is ready to drop off the hub, and it pulls right out of the way. Now with new tread on the wheel, we're going to go ahead and we're going to put this wheel back on. So we're just going to lift the wheel up and stick it on the lip of the hub. It'll somewhat hang there. And then we line up the holes in the wheel to the holes on the hub, and we put our Torx bolts in there and then just put them in place. And we're only going to tighten them down, just finger tight, enough to hold them in place until we can get all five of them into place. All right, with all the bolts into place and the wheel on the bike, we're going to take our torque wrench and we're going to set our torque wrench to the proper torque specs. Don't email me and ask me, what the torque specs are for your bike. You have an owner's manual. Look it up in the owner's manual. The torque specs for this bike might be different from your bike, and if you're watching this in 2017, the bikes might look exactly the same, but the torque specs might have changed a little bit. You never know. So pull out your manual, flip back to the torque specs page, and torque the rear wheel down to whatever specs is on in your manual. There are also torque specs for this mud guard, splash guard. I don't really see a need to torque these down. They just need to be tight. I believe the torque spec for the 2016, it was something crazy like 8 foot-pounds. It was barely anything at all. But as long as you get these tight and don't break anything, you'll be all right with this. You just don't want your mud guard to flop off and be left on the trail behind you, and you've gone 100 miles and then realized your mud guard's gone. So there's your rear wheel on. Thanks for watching. Please watch some of my other videos.